much for coming.
Thank you.
It's on a busy Saturday. I'm sure the holidays are next week, and so I think Terrence specifically asked me to come here to help with all these worries. How many of you guys are you worried about the holidays or worried about parenting in general? Any worries?
Yeah.
Well, let's get to it. I wanted to start off with saying that it's about balancing parenthood. I help parents as a parent coach. I'm also a family coach. Help them overcome worries, because when you think about it, and I'll go into it further, all these worries are in our minds, right? They're not really true a lot of times, but we focus on what might happen, what if I have to, and you fill in the blank, and then your mind just goes crazy. So I wanted to just bring up the 3 books that I've written. Mama's Gotta Let Go, How to Let Go Without Losing Your Sanity. I'm not saying that you will never lose your sanity, but it was based on a diary that I had and the pain and depression that I went through when my eldest daughter, who's 27, left for college. And then here's my daughter, Chelsea, who's 21. She'll be doing the slideshow thing, but I just wanted to tell you that there's always hope. There are so many times I didn't think that I could manage parenting. I would never have thought of myself choosing to be a parent family coach, but this book, and I think Taryn and I might be providing it later in a future events where this book will be available. It's also on Amazon. This one is available at the library. This is also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but this one was inspired by 100 mini videos that I took on parenting, and it was released in 2022 actually. It's 100 parenting tips inspired by the pandemic. So it's not just about the pandemic, but everything. I just opened it up. Creating effective multitaskers. How do you, releasing the need to control your child's journey. I think a lot of us feel that we know best, and we want to think our kids should do this, be quiet, not have tantrums, make sure that they follow the rules, and when they don't, we think that something is wrong. So we'll go further into that. It's perfectly normal, and there's nothing wrong with tantrums, only that it probably frustrates us, right, when we hear the crying and the meltdowns. This one, The Power to Rise Above, was published in Australia. I found out that it recently was given a gold award, and I'm one of 30 authors, and all of us have written about something that we overcame. So this one is very near and dear to my heart, because it's something that, when you have global women coming together, sharing what they went through, we realize every single one of us has struggles. So I'm going to start off with a poem that I wrote called The Parenting Journey. Sometimes there's unexpected drama. Anyone can relate to unexpected drama when you're a parent? Knots form and create painful trauma. Though it can feel quite unbearable, giving up is unacceptable. A parent's journey is never smooth, especially when raising a youth. Children teach us valuable lessons. They test our patience with hard questions. Despite the endless challenges, feeling emotional damages, unconditional love is a must. We must learn to let go and trust. The more we control and demand, we'll drown ourselves in scary quicksand. What's the secret to parenting with peace? Take deep breaths, pause, trust, and release. Release the shoulds our brain hangs onto, for the fears we believe are untrue. Children just need love and acceptance. They crave freedom and independence. Let's surrender our worries and fears. Life's too short, and childhood disappears. And I feel like it was just yesterday when my 21 and 27-year-old were 14 months, 5 years. You just think they're so like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And before you know it, I think have people told you that? Like, you got to cherish these times when they're young. And you think, why? How can I do this, right, when you're stressed? So next. This is a good quote. Children thrive on boundaries, because without rules, their world is murky and confusing. When I work with parents and families, I notice, and I've done this myself, you give it discipline, sometimes out of reaction, right? And then you backpedal. And you might say, I used to say like 1 week of no TV, right? And then all of a sudden they are sassy. 2 weeks. Does this bring back memories? 3 weeks, because you're just being, disrespectful. And then I've learned after 20 plus years that this discipline and the reaction does not work. It builds resentment, that connection, right? When you think about it, every moment you have with your child, you either connect or disconnect. And we don't realize that because we think, I want to make sure that they learn, and we've been taught the punishments work, right? If you have a child who is very strong-willed, every punishment given, they'll just say, I don't care, I had a friend and she said, you're done with take your Xbox. He took everything, the phone, unplugged everything and said, go. I don't need anything, and you still can't make me behave. And she was like, okay, what do you do? So next, what I want to try to do, who am I? I'm the mom of 2 adult daughters. So my daughter, Sabrina, is in California, major letting go. So this book is part of not just letting go. No one tells you, right, about the heartache. Like right now, they're there with you and you have a hard time releasing control. Just imagine when they're 18, 19, however old they are, and they leave. Yeah. Does that form extra knots? Because you think, I'm not going to be there, so I get it. I've made every mistake in the book. I'm a wife, my husband Thomas is here. We've both been through it, and it is very difficult because sometimes we have different personalities, right? If you have a mother who's controlling and the father's like, yes, let it go, or you just have different ways of discipline. Sometimes one communicates, one doesn't. So we'll talk about that too, how that affects parenting. I started off as a private tutor. I still do tutoring, and I founded Brain Builders in 1999. Youngest child I've tutored is 3, and then I've tutored as old as 60. This lady just wants to learn more math, so she just hired me. Parent coach, recently I realized that the family coach component is so important because you can just talk about and coach parents, but then the children are is the reason why, right? Sometimes parents need the coaches or some support. I have a podcast on Spotify called Letting Go with Aloha, and I've interviewed experts. Some of them are grandparents, some of them are just all walks of life, and it's interesting to hear their suggestions, and that's what I've learned, and I've applied it to my parenting journey as well as coaching and as an educator. Neurolinguistic practitioner, that's just a fancy way. The NLP is helping us rewire our brain. So the things that I'm going to tell you, some of it I invite you to be open-minded because it is something that you might not be used to, thinking about, like you said, the tantrums, things that are happening within our head. And maybe that's why you're here today. Are you here today because anyone need guidance and just wondering, like, how do we even navigate parenting, right? There's no parenting 101, but what I'd like to do is just offer what I've learned over the years. So my mission, I strongly believe that my mission has always been to be an essential resource for parents. Before it was in an educator's position, but now I realize that if we do not do what our children need from us and put our goals and the reason why we think, right? Because as a parent, what do you believe, since we just have a small intimate setting, what do you think your goal, your number one thing for your daughter would be?
To have a good education and to be kind.
To have a good education, to be kind, so making sure that she knows to be kind when she grows up.
And then society,
productive member of society. I think all of us, we want to make sure that our children can navigate life when we're no longer here. And I think that is the objective, because one day we won't be here. And you would probably be more worried, and this is number one challenge and worry that parents that I work with is, what's going to happen if I'm not here? And then when they're really, really little, what do you think the challenge is? Like the number one worry that you have?
Oh, like sometimes when they get when she get tantrums, um, I think they don't remember anything at all until age 4 or 3.
Well, yeah, the first 7 years is when they're developing, right? They always say it's the magical age, and then at 7, whatever happens, their personality is formed. Can you change it? Yes, we can always change the way that we connect. But the tantrum thing, you'll learn a lot when we talk about the inner voices that steal our peace, that we'll be talking about later. And I think we all want to prepare them for adulthood. And then guess what? I've talked to grandmas. When they're adults, you still are in their lives, right? Because whether you have grandchildren or not, will your adult children ask you for advice or complain or come to you, right? So that connection is there for the rest of their lives. The worries. So these are the worries that a lot of parents tell me. You're talking about being kind, education, that's their future, right? You want to make sure that their future is something that they'll be proud of, that they are able to overcome their worries. Self-esteem is a big one. If your child doesn't believe in themselves, then they have a hard time even behaving well, right? Because they think, well, if I'm naughty, I've got kids go, well, my mom thinks I'm naughty, so I might as well be naughty. And you think, wow. And these are everyone from age 5 to 16. They know I'm gonna get in trouble, so why not? And you think, wow, but it really makes us think about how we should interact and just connect with our children. Our mental health, I was just telling Taryn a couple days ago, there was news really saying that there were over 3,000 elementary school children who've been arrested. And you think, what's going on, But I think over the almost 30 years, it really is the worries, the stress, and even the anger issues, right, that children have. Because what is a tantrum? It's when, and you see adults have it too, right? And it's because we don't know how to handle that anger, so it just becomes almost like an explosion, right, of emotions. Feeling helpless. I think as parents we feel helpless, but think about your child, right? If you look back when you're 5, when you were little, did you feel helpless? You had to rely on your parents, or you didn't know when that discipline was gonna be thrown at you, right? Health issues, I think we're always scared when our kids get sick. And of course, their safety. I think a lot of people are scared about their safety, and if you have little ones, you wanna make sure, right? Have you ever lost your child? We've had experiences when they were what? I think she was like 4. It was the day before your birthday. I remember we were at Sears Ala Moana. And I think the first thing I thought of was, how am I going to tell my mother that I lost her 4-year-old, soon to be 4-year-old granddaughter? And then we looked all over, and she was like in a total different department. And you think immediately that you're the worst mother ever. How do you lose your child? I had a friend who lost her child at Disneyland, but there was a huge crowd. Their hands separated, and you just think at the time, right? All you need to do is hear this on the news, and you think, what if this might happen to you, right? So safety worries are real. What can you do? And this is, I think, what you're here for. What can you do? Well, know what you can and cannot control. A lot of things, when you find yourself worrying about the worst case, pause and ask yourself, is this happening now? A lot of our worries are in our head, right? And we think, when's the next tantrum gonna happen? What if my child doesn't do well in school? What if I don't know what to do? And of course, fear is normal, right? Tantrums are normal, fear is normal, and it will be there. I used to think, when I get it, the fear will go away, or I'll just know what to do. You talk to grandparents, it never goes away. But it's how do we deal with it so it doesn't paralyze us? Does that make sense? Sometimes you just feel so fearful that we think, I don't want to do this anymore, and it's because the stress is so high. Don't underestimate the power of breathing and just pausing. I don't know if any of you and meditate can be just when you take a shower, or you just have time where you clear your mind. Clearing your mind and just deep breathing can really bring some peace. Talk to other parents. I'm glad that you, Taryn, you have different programs at the library, and a lot of parents might come just to get out of the house. I used to do the storytelling, and it's fun, to connect with other parents. Sometimes it's just you, right, and your child, and you just need that social interaction and just being around. Even if you don't talk, right, just being in a different location with children. And expose yourself to your fears. A lot of times it's the discomfort. It's the discomfort. You don't want to feel like this. You don't want to hear the tantrums. But when you just sit with it, and I'll tell you some exercises to do when your brain starts going haywire and you think, I can't deal with this. So what we'll be doing next is talking about the mindset. If there was one thing you remember, it's the mindset that we can change to overcome the worries, okay? So these are some day-to-day worries that people have told me. A lot of it is, especially the holidays are coming up. We have so many things to do, and we all put it on our list. You guys have lists that you need to do this, and this. You might not write it down. It's in your head, and you think, what if I forget? I just don't have time for this. And how do I help? I think sometimes when they're little, I look back, and I probably helped too much. You know, I had a recent experience where it was a 9-year-old boy, and he's writing. His pencil falls. His dad came out of nowhere and grabbed the pencil, gave it to him, and you can tell the boy was like, so then the next time the pencil dropped. And I just told the dad, and he looked at me. I said, you can pick it up. And he's like getting all nervous, but if we give our children the opportunity, you know, to work it out and not rush to the rescue, that will teach them. If you want them to be independent when they're older, that's one of the ways. Just let them. We used to do this weird thing, and whenever our oldest would fall, she was our only child, we would clap. So we'd be out, she'd fall, she'd clap, and people would look at us, why are they clapping? Their child is falling. But she would laugh, no tears, and you realize how much power you have in helping your children when they're, you know, having that tantrum or just not feeling happy. Will my child learn how to problem solve and be independent if we're constantly helping our children? And I have teenagers. Mom, my cell phone is dead. You didn't charge it. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm thinking, when will it be the time when you let go and you know, I've had, when you're older, your kids are older and you want, like, I didn't bring my umbrella. I forgot my water bottle. They leave town. They literally leave town, and I told them, and I think I did that. I was in a tutoring session and she forgot her pencil case, and I'm thinking, what am I doing? I said, this is the last time I'm bringing it. And then of course you hear that, oh, guess what? I found someone who gave me a pencil. And you realize we need to let go. And unless it's something that endangers them, we really need to let them figure it out. And this one is real though. I don't have support. I have a lot of single moms, like, who do I turn to? But if you have a friend, sometimes make friends with the people, the parents in your child's class. And I think some of the friends that I've had are from when the girls were little. And then you can actually go through the journey of parenting together. So retraining. This is what's going to help you save your sanity. Instead of, why is this happening? Why are they crying? It's like, what is triggering? It's the crying, right? Because no one wants our children to cry. But ask yourself, are you setting unrealistic expectations for your child's behavior? Children actually teach us how emotions work. If they cry, let them cry. I think one of the things in the old parenting style was, don't cry. I have fathers say too, you're a boy, we don't cry. They turn into adults, and then the teenagers who are like, no, it's weak. It's weak being, you know, showing my tears. Now we're learning, as far as mental health goes, we need to learn to embrace that, you know, be vulnerable and cry. Some of the moms, you know, who recently get divorced, they think, I need to be strong. I can't show my pain. Well, guess what? Then your children will grow up thinking that they can't show pain. So once you started being honest, they cry together, they hug together, they're connecting. Because the goal should not be to always be happy, right? If you want, I thought that's when things would be fine, because it's a roller coaster. You're happy, then you're not, right? You're happy, and then you're not. So ask yourself, is this unrealistic? Big one. Am I taking care of your own needs? Are you taking care of yourself? If you're constantly with your children, can you have 10 minutes? You can have 10 minutes. I used to have like some toys or something nearby, right? You take a shower, your child is occupied, right? And so it's like giving a pen. You know what I'm gonna do? In a little bit, I'll give you guys something. Am I giving myself permission and my child permission to make mistakes? This is a hard one because a lot of the parents tell me, I don't want my child to make the same mistakes as I did, right? I want them to not suffer like I did. But if your children don't learn, then how, if they don't learn to make mistakes? Another thing that I wanna make sure that we are very aware of, I'm having so many children as young as 5, as old as 16, tell me they need to be perfect in order to be accepted. That is very, very hard, right? They make a mistake, they cry because the letter B needs to be redone, and then when I tell them that it's okay to make mistakes, they ask me, can you talk to my mom? Can you talk to my dad? And I said, well, and this is when I tell them, sometimes even parents, we think making mistakes is bad. So I'm talking to a 9-year-old, his whole life is told, you better behave, you better not make mistakes, you better not disappoint, or else. That's a child that's going to be worrying all the time and just really not trusting whether they're good enough, right? And it starts off really easy and as young as preschool, right? They don't know how to do something, they go home and they, I didn't know how to do something, and they cry, and I'm gonna let you know that that can be an opportunity for you to learn, as a family, as parents, and that's what this is. How can I reframe my mindset to view the challenge as an opportunity to grow? I think tantrums, if you flip switch it, and every time your child has a tantrum, say, wow, right? It can be a good thing, and you say, what's going on? I've done that with children right before tutoring. They're crying, and I think, so is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna, before I introduce this mental fitness training program, I'm gonna just, here, so I just have 2. Look. And that's the key too. If you are outside having little things, my cousin who was a elementary school principal said, whenever you go out, have like a little toolbox. I notice you have crayons, you have like little things. You notice at some restaurants, it's because they have the little coloring sheet.
Yeah.
Those, and instead of doing the iPad, because you see that, right? They're 2 and they're very behaved, but they're just staring. And that's not really good for brain development. But I had a child, and I swear, for 20 minutes, she was doing this. I had someone put it on their wrist. I didn't even know that there's a little hole there, and you can actually put the unicorn, they're so creative. But if you let them just have just a whole bunch of paper, crayons, you get to eat, and they're creating their masterpiece. And what helps? Wow, what is that? Because you know that, have you ever had this? So do you know what this is? And you're scared because you might see a dog and be like, that's not a dog, it's a rabbit. So you can say, wow, it's so creative. Geez, can you give me a hint? Wow, you're so smart. I didn't even know what that is, but use, we don't need to know it all. I used to think, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer, but it's okay. So the mental fitness training program that I created is based on positive intelligence. It's from this guy named Shirzad Shaman, and he tells us that there are inner voices in our head. And if we learn how to tame those inner voices, we'll never be stressed. It's when we do not know how to handle the voices. So when and then we'll go through the voices. So 9 inner voices. So think of it as the judge. There's a judge in your head. If you focus on, I don't know if you signed in, but I can send you the slideshow, the presentation, so that you have the 9 voices and the other tips that I have. So the judge is always within us. If you're feeling guilty, frustrated, sometimes just hopeless, any negative emotion, your peace is being stolen. So he calls them saboteurs. I call them inner voices. And I think as young as 5, I've been introducing this concept to little kids. And I'll be like, the judge came to me during class and I told myself, it's okay, judge, go away. And now we're teaching them that the judge will be there, but what do we say? What do we say to the judge? So let's go through the voices. The avoider. So these are, and sometimes I had someone who didn't have kids and she said, oh yeah, I'm the avoider. Whenever her husband wants to talk, she'll be like, wait, I'm into the solitaire game, so I can't talk to you right now. Right? You just come up with something. There are benefits and there are reasons why you don't want to allow these inner voices. Why do you think, avoider, usually, oh, I don't have to deal with it, right? A lot of parents who might have to give a consequence, suppose your son came home, they're 16, and you need to take the car keys away for whatever reason, right? They might have been caught doing something bad. For little ones, they're not, can you tell me like something where maybe you don't want to deal with it? It could even be like bath time. It could be a task that you don't want to do.
We don't like to clean the mess.
Clean the mess is a big one. And so what do? We think of all the other things. We'll do laundry, we'll do, like everything, right? And then you'll see the avoiders on Christmas Eve, the parents who start shopping. I think they have it on the news. One guy always starts his shopping on Christmas Eve. I'm sure every mother thinks, why, right? You probably, sometimes you really don't want to do something. So with parenting, the avoider is hands off. You don't want to handle the crying. You're not there, and it's because it feels safe to you. You might feel uncomfortable. If you are taught emotions are uncomfortable, then you might be a parent who doesn't know how. How do I handle when my child is sad? And we'll cover that. And there's no boundaries because you don't want to give discipline or consequences. You know why? Because you don't want to hear what, why, and another tantrum. So you think, oh, I'll just maybe he'll behave better. Next voice, the controller. I think a lot of us have this in us, and it's when there are too many rules, right? You're micromanaging, but why? I had a mom say, well, if I control, then I know that it'll get done. If I control, and these are the parents who, when I go to tutor, the mom has already done the assignment. When I come, they demand, they're like, you know what? You better listen to Miss Karen. You better open your ears. You better listen. Open your eyes. And they leave. And I look at the child, I'm like, do you feel a little stressed? I'm like, okay, listen. I go, okay, bye, mom. And I realized I can't. It's not really good to have the parent when you're tutoring because they'll be like, did you just listen? I had someone yesterday, and the voice kind of rose, and he said, was he disrespectful to you? And we were like, no, he was just sharing something. Oh, I just want to make sure. And he's like, I'm never disrespectful. But you realize that controller in her wants to make sure, and this is what we believe, if our child is naughty, then I must not be an effective parent. If your child misbehaves, it has nothing to do with your worth as a parent. I've had parents who do everything, and then maybe the child decides to purposefully flunk a class just because. Or you have someone, Chelsea has a lot of stories working with A+ kids, and sometimes they're just like wanting to break all their crayons. Sometimes they might be able to throw a water bottle to hit someone, and you think, did I not teach you? You hear these conversations. What did we tell you? Why did you do it? The why question I would not ask, because what's the answer? I don't know. But why? I don't know. And then it just becomes that becomes a parent meltdown, right? And a child meltdown. The next inner voice that sometimes, this is a big one. When you say education, when you say grades, you say these, you need to, right now a lot of even if you're in preschool, I had a preschool, parents of a 4-year-old, they needed to get their child into either Punahou or Ilani. And they did everything. And I wanted to remind them, right? A lot of times if they don't get in, guess what happens? You feel like, what's wrong? And you feel like this needs to be done, right? With whatever you think. Conditional love. These are the kids who tell me, I don't want to show them mistake because they're not going to love me. And you think, wow, you're just giving it, right? You're just maybe giving a lecture, you're telling them maybe next time you can do better. They hear I'm not good enough. They hear that my achievement, my performance, my winning is what matters. And so this, I think out of all the voices, this one can kind of, if you think of self-esteem being chipped away, it'll damage self-esteem because they will feel that they need to be perfect in order. These are the ones where, and you've seen parents, right? Look at all A's, what does this be? And you just think it means something. So ask yourself next time, what does it really mean when a mistake happens, when something doesn't go your way? Hyper-rational. I didn't realize how damaging this can be. This is when your child will feel judged and inadequate, but that's because you need to have things done a certain way. So this is a mom, I actually know a mom, who after their child went to sleep, redecorated the Christmas tree because it wasn't done neatly. So these are the ones who, right, they're like, are you sure you did that? When did you do that? How do I know that that was clean? And constant questions. So one of the moms said recently, yeah, I noticed that I just asked him a few questions and now he hasn't been talking to me for a week. What did you ask? She just said, are you still hanging out with Mr. Colin James? Who are you hanging out with? And I said, they were just questions, but ask yourselves how you felt when your parents did the same thing to you, right? When you really put yourself in your child's shoes, no matter what age they are, you might not remember, right, when you were little, but think of yourself being really little and always being told what to do, what's wrong, why do you have to, and look, you guys are doing so good. Let her do what she wants. And you guys see, and they teach us we have no control, right? And it's okay. Next one. Hypervigilant. These are the parents. My last talk was about like anxiety. I've had a lot of parents, if you're hypervigilant, you're always worried about the next bad thing that might happen. So you're suspicious. These are the kids who say, I turned it in, and you say, can I have proof? And your children will be raised not believing that you ever trust them. I have a really it's a sad story because I said, show your parents, show your dad that you got a really good grade. And she goes, Miss Karen, it's not gonna matter. No, show it. So she says, hey dad, look, I got an A. The dad looked at her, was joking, and said, so who did you copy from? And she looked at me and said, see, I told you. I said, your dad, yeah, I thought, well, you know that you did a good job. And then that's where I have to tell them, right, that sometimes your dad might not be in a good mood. Sometimes they don't even know. Some parents don't even know how to praise, right? So be aware of what comes out of your mouth. I've had some dads say, oh, I've been looking at that list, and in a list that I say should. And you find yourself saying should, you better, why didn't you? You are disconnecting. Right, next. Oh, the pleaser. As a parent, we like to have children who are pleasers. Why? Because it's easy. They follow the rules, they don't question, and then you realize, guess what happens though? And someone told me that if we love our children to please us, guess what's happening during the holidays? You get this list of like 10 items, and sometimes they can be pricey items, right? I remember telling my children, and everyone has their own beliefs, but I thought saying that that Santa needed to know that it's okay. Can you imagine if your son wanted a motorcycle and he was 3 and he writes it on the list and says, I've been really good, I know I'm gonna get it. And this is where as parents you think, I can't get a motorcycle. Remember, she wanted a horse. We live in Mililani. At the time, I didn't know what to say. Now I've learned, I could have said, wow, that's so cool. What color horse would you like? And you just go into that, and that's all they need. They don't need the horse. The other thing you wanted was roly-poly bugs. We granted that. Thomas had to go find the roly-poly bugs. But when you think about it, Why is it so important for us to please our children, right? These are the ones where you don't like to see them angry, you don't like to see them disappointed, right? So you stop the tantrum, let the tantrum play out. The hardest thing is when you're in public, right? Is that probably the hardest thing? We had a nephew, he was just running and dropping, remember he like dug up the dirt in the plant, or just you're all over. So what is you can't control their behavior, but you can't say, hey, come. I had this with some kids, and they're running around. I tutor at the park too. I'm like, come here. When your voice gets louder, their voice and their whole energy gets louder. I've done this, and it works. You talk softer. And they're like, what? You just got them away from it. Hey, you want to know what I have? Have some little things. And then, what is that? Come, have a seat. And then you think, wow, that was magical. But all you're doing is diverting, right? At this age, diverting. And then what happens is that when the children who are pleasers grow up, I'm finding that they're resentful because they feel that they need to always please the parents. And that's what happened with them. I didn't realize that, I need to make my mom happy. I need to make my child happy. This pleaser can be very, energy. Oh, this is where you have your child, I didn't realize this, in a lot of activities. This is where when a child says, I'm bored, you think, I need to entertain them. I would say, I don't know if you remember this, if you are responsible for your own entertainment. This is a child who wants another toy, then another toy, and another thing, and you feel like they're always wanting to do something, but you end up spending time, right? You feel spending time on negative emotions. That means when they're not listening, but you're focusing on all the stuff that's going wrong, and you think that's a waste of time. You know what you should do? You should just stay busy. Okay, next. Stickler. Stickler goes along with high achiever. Stickler is where it is perfect. So that's the mom who redid the Christmas tree. We had our gingerbread houses redone. Have you ever done that? Well, they're still little. You try to do something together, and then you think, oh well, maybe that gumdrop should be there. Maybe, and then they start losing focus, and then all of a sudden you see that one parent making sure that everything is perfect. High grades, achievements. I didn't realize that these parents sometimes, you think that they're joking, right? You joke around, but like that father who said, yeah, who did you copy? But this sarcasm hurts, right? You're opinionated. If you find yourself saying, you know what you should have done? The next time, what you're doing is telling them what should be done, right? So you're fixing your children's messes. That's a big thing, right? Criticizing for sloppiness, for laziness. So what do? Do you constantly clean up that room? That's the question, right? Do you constantly clean up the room? What are you teaching a child when you constantly find lost items? And we've done that. Oh my gosh, I don't know, where am I? And you see everyone trying to find it. It must have taken me over 15 years to realize if there's a lost item, you do not have to find it. Even if it is, someone had a baseball practice. It was a baseball, it was a game that was a championship thing, and he did not have his glove. And she said, oh well. They went. The coach had an extra glove, but that mom, talk about how hard that would be though. When something is, when you find yourself fixing, that's your inner voice saying, uh-oh, and ask yourself, do I really need to do this? This is going to happen to you when you have, oh, guess what, Mom? I have a project to do. And immediately, the moms who, right, the dads who think, what is it? Let's find it. These are the moms who are taking notes. When I come there, they're showing all this stuff. So next, so be aware of that. The victim. Sometimes I think we don't realize when we're the victim. You might say stuff like, why is this happening? Right? If a child is a victim, they will withdraw even if they feel misunderstood or you criticize them, why did you do that? all of a sudden they're thinking, and these are the kids who tell me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I can never make my mom happy. Why try? And then realize that the short answer to this is what I'm about to share with you, and that's positive intelligence. Is you're shifting your negative mindset anytime, right? You're judging, you're upset, you feel guilty, and switch it to a positive one. But it's much more than that. Let's go to what I call the superpowers. You didn't realize every one of us have superpowers. Shirzad calls them the sages, because when you're in sage mode, right, you kind of know what to do. Have you ever had those days things go right and you think, so they're having a tantrum, so this is happening, but you're not frazzled, right? So the key is not to allow yourself to get to that point, and once you are, awareness. I think I might need to just step away, even if it's 10 minutes, right? You can have your child right outside of the bathroom and just give them some toys and say, I had this one mom, and she just decides to take a shower. She takes 3 showers a day, 3 10-minute showers. She learned that if she was just going to the bathroom, the kids would be like, Mom, Mom, Mom. But if she took a shower, they would give her the 10 minutes, right? But she thought that was, I said, I never thought of that. But she said that really gave her peace. So let's talk about these powers. You guys ready for superpowers?
Yeah.
What are parenting powers? They might not seem like powers, but it's to be the explorer. So what I want you to do is picture yourself really frustrated, whatever that is. Think of maybe your child saying, I need these 15 things. Some of these things they might sell out, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, how do I do this, right? When your child is having a tantrum, giving you a hard time, ask yourself, your child is your teacher when you think about it. What are they teaching you right now, right? Instead of judging their behavior. I'm tired, why are they doing this? Whether it's nagging, whether it's like, Mom, 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 right? And you think, I just need some space. Try to understand the lessons. Is it patience? Is it maybe allowing yourself to let go? My friend actually, she had a baby who's just constantly crying for hours and hours and hours. She was maybe 8 months old, put her on a blanket in the middle of the room and left. And all of us, we all got about, what? You left her? She said, I knew she was safe. I knew that my anger was rising and I had to leave. And we thought, wow, that's pretty brilliant. As long as you know your child is safe, but you just need physical space sometimes. If you cannot, have you ever done this in a car? You're in the car, you see these parents driving by and they're like really upset, right? They're maybe and I saw one at Costco. She had 3 kids in the cart, and they're like grabbing, and she's like, just stop! Can you guys just stop? The hardest thing is to have that awareness, right? Pause. Take a deep breath. If you just learn to pause and take a deep breath, you will access one of these superpowers. So the next one, so think of that, right? Explore mode. So as soon as you think, this shouldn't happen, oh, maybe my child is teaching me patience. The hardest thing to do, I think, is when you're out and your child has a tantrum and you think other parents will judge you, right? We have to let that go. Because if they do judge you, sometimes they'll judge you and they might not be parents. They'll be like, when I have a child, they're not gonna be like that. And if they are parents, you know what they're feeling is empathy. Oh my gosh, I can imagine, what they're going through. But take that judge out of your head. When conflicts arise, this is an innovator. So you're asking yourself, when I said to put yourself in your 5-year-old shoes, or like if you have a 12-year-old, and look at things from their perspective, right? Let them make mistakes. It's my new thing. What is no lectures. Navigating. Reframe challenges, right? So become a navigator. What is going on right now? It's not a problem. It's an opportunity to learn. Next. And then of course, I think every one of us can do this today, is activate. Take one action step. So instead of being the dictator, the controller, you just approach it with fearlessness. When you think about it, it's the judge and the fear of what might happen, right? And and then just know that you are able to just tell yourself, we're gonna work this out. And maybe the one step could be, whenever there's a tantrum next, you're gonna reframe and know that that tantrum doesn't mean a bad thing. It's a child kind of needing to, right? Needing to, like, maybe having those emotions out, and that's all it means. It doesn't mean that they're naughty. This is going so. And then empathy. If there's one thing out of all of them, is show compassion, show forgiveness, and that does recharge your batteries. Next. So I invite anyone here, you can contact me, my business card is in the back, and I offer complimentary virtual 45-minute parenting coaching sessions. I had this one mom tell me, wow, I didn't realize that it does help. Sometimes you just need to vent, share what's going on, and find out that it is not so impossible to find that peace. And then the very end is just where you can find me. What I wanted to do though is for the, wait, did I cover this? We covered the tantrums, and we covered, oh, this is a good one. Why don't we end with this? But I do want, I'll end with this, and then if you have time, just the 3 things that you guys can do to melt away the holiday stress, okay? Which is what I'm sure some of you folks are waiting for. How to best discipline or hold your child accountable, right? Because sometimes this will happen, right? The pinching, the yelling. When you are losing control, that's when you need to step back, because what's going to happen is when you start losing control, guess what you're teaching your children? To lose control. So you're their role model. So a lot of times, discipline, the latest thing is it's connecting and talking about it. Anytime a child misbehaves, they are sending you a message. It could mean, I'm not heard, so I'm going to just drop the water that's on the table, right? Once they feel heard and understood, you will have less misbehaviors. Does that make sense? Sometimes it depends what's happening. If they're tired or hungry, you might just have to play it out and just make sure that you don't resort to that reaction. Because I've done that, right? I never did the spanking thing, but I broke so many spatulas because I would just say, you know what? And I'd break it, and then we were at Walmart, and she's like, look, Mom, it's the spanking stick. And it was the Easy Bake Oven spatula. None of my girls, I'm sure, will ever get the Easy Bake Oven. So just to recap, explore, right? When you have the superpowers, explore, innovate, navigate, activate, which is just one action step. And the one thing is just put yourself in their shoes. Empathy can go a long way. Because normally as parents, you think, why aren't you listening? And they'll just say, I don't know, or they'll do something that triggers. So you just want to make sure you diffuse. So these are 3 things you can do during the holidays. And I thought, wow, I wish I knew this. I didn't know how to simplify. So what you're doing, you're minimizing, and if you minimize your priorities, I used to send over 100 cards, Christmas cards. And you gotta do the, what we did throughout the year. And one year, guess what? I decided I'm not doing it. The world didn't end. No one told me I was a terrible parent. And you realize, if you have a whole list, choose at least 5 of them, half of them. Do you really need to do this? Do you really need to get 5 toys, right? Do you really need to? And then if you sit within, you're gonna hear that, no, you don't really need to do it. The next one, and I'm sure this causes a lot, is manage family expectations. If you have extended family, you guys are going to be around a lot of people, then you might not want to be around. How can you find peace? I have a friend, and she said she doesn't want to be around her in-laws. So during the whole dinner, she said, you know what? I just need to take a break. I'm not feeling well, and I could just be exhaustion. She took a 10-minute walk. She came back. She said, Karen, I felt like 100 times better. Because that resentment of sitting there is what's causing it, right? And then the last thing, so we talked about just the priorities, expectations, and also, this is a good one, especially when you guys have little kids. Change the focus on the gift giving. We did, and some parents are doing it, you choose an activity. Some kids might just want to play at the park. Some kids might want to go to the beach, but you ask them, What's something fun you want to do? And that's what our Christmas present is going to be. We really got to rewire what presents really mean, right? We think it's physical, and it doesn't have to be. This one child was so happy, and he just wanted to go to the skate park. He said, "This is the best gift ever." And the parents are like, "Wow, we didn't have to buy anything." You don't think about it. So any questions, I think I'm running a little over. Any questions or anything that?
Do you give timeouts though? Like,
Yes, actually, you know what? By the timeout, you know what? I made the mistake of making it sound like it was a punishment. But when you say, you know what, Mom and both of us need some space, you can call it, because timeout makes it sound like it's a punishment. Why don't we just have like breathing space? Why don't we just have alone time just to? And I had this one mom when she did that. The child would say, "Hey, Mom, can I have some breathing space? I gotta go into my room." And she did. If they're little, it should be, and I don't know, it changes depending on, it's 1 minute per age, right? So, but when you do it, let them know that it's not a punishment. Let them know that, well, it sounds like we're both getting upset. Why don't we just sit? And you sit there, Mom will sit here, and just like, let's just breathe, And then when you get back together, it's not like, you know what you did? Tell me what you just learned. It's just like, so, and just talk. So talking and connecting will be better than the whole lecturing. So the final thing is, lecture less, listen more. Your children will let you know what they need, and sometimes it's just like, look, sometimes it's just like being there. She's holding Mom's hand, she's putting her head next to Dad's knee, and it doesn't have to be a toy. It doesn't have to be, Any other? Do you have a question or?
I'm good.
Oh, you're good? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming. I'm glad that sometimes, even if it's a small group, we get to have just an intimate setting, and it's just as good. But thank you, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Did you take care? Yeah. So I have I'm sorry, it's Sunday. Feels like a Saturday. And enjoy your Thanksgiving, and just create memories, and just connect. Just learn to connect with your children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, this is for you here. This is for you too.
Say thank you.
So this, I didn't know. This one was fancy.